Hello, everyone. It's good to come your way again with another episode of your favorite go to language program. On this episode, I am talking to a young lady, a very beautiful one at that, who has got a lot going on when it comes to the Ekpeye language. Her name is Franca Ụmásoyé Igwe. She's very particular about the Ụmásoyé. And so after this break, we'll get into all the juice about the Ekpeye language and why she's taking it upon herself to be an advocate for the language. You don't want to miss out on it. Stay with us.
Welcome to Africa's LSP Podcast, where we explore the world of translation, interpretation, and localization, as well as connect with the language industry's top players. From language service providers to the businesses and individuals who rely on their services, we'll be delving into the challenges, opportunities, and trends shaping the industry. Join us as we discover the power of language and the impact it has on connecting Africa and the world. Brought to you by Bolingo Consult, Africa's LSP Podcast is the go-to podcast for all things language in Africa.
Welcome back. This is the Africa LSP Podcast. If you just tuned in or joined us, you haven't missed a lot. We are just about beginning the program. Franca Ụmásoyé Igwe is an Ekpeye language advocate, and she's joining us today to talk about the Ekpeye language. Hi, Ụmásoyé. You're welcome to the Africa LSP Podcast. We're honored to have you on the show to talk to us about all there is of the Ekpeye language.
Ebeleni yo, ewa medini Ụmásoyé, mabu nwa Ekpeye, mebili Abuja. My name is Ụmásoyé and I am from Ekpeye. Ekpeye is an ethnic group located in Ahoda East and parts of Ahoda West in Rivers State, Nigeria.
How about if we set off by you telling us a bit about yourself, everything we need to know, anything interesting you think will be of importance to myself and my listeners out there?
Currently, I'm based in Abuja and I do quite a lot of things. I can't just pinpoint one thing exactly. So sometimes I'm wearing the hat of a project manager. Sometimes I'm wearing the hat of an SEO writer. But most times I'm working as a social media manager and sometimes a teacher. So depending on the context or what is required of me at a particular time. Yeah. So one of the things I love doing is traveling. I love traveling, visiting new places, experiencing new cultures and their food. I used to be a foodie, but I think I don't really do that a lot now. But yeah, traveling has been one of my best hobbies.
Well, it is clear that Ụmásoyé is that one woman you can call a jack of many trades and still a master of all. And talking about food, oh yes, I am a foodie myself. And so maybe we should meet one of these days over food and talk more. Tell us about the Ekpeye language, a brief history where it is spoken, the number of speakers, various dialects, and feel free to say a few words in the Ekpeye language and why it has become so important to know about it.
About the Ekpeye language, Ekpeye bụ Unekpo Emine Ekpeye. So that is the language of the Ekpeye people. Ekpeye people are located in Ahoda East and parts of Ahoda West local government areas in Rivers State, Nigeria. Oral history has it that present-day Ekpeye people migrated from Benin. Where they moved down, and our ancestor Akalaka migrated from Benin and settled in Ubie. That is a clan in Ekpeye, and from there we have the ethnic group today. I don't really know the exact number of speakers, but I know that speakers of Ekpeye worldwide are over 10,000. And the language doesn't have much dialectical differences. I mean, we all understand ourselves, but in different clans, you can see different words for different things, but we understand ourselves, so we don't have much dialectical differences. So Mika, for that question, Mika is thank you. So I'm going to be saying more of that in this conversation. I mean, we are talking about the Ekpeye language.
Well, on that note, let me say Mika. I hope I got it right. Mika, for sharing that history of the language with us. As an advocate of the language, we know you're doing a lot to promote the language and increase its awareness on the digital space. So, talk to us about these various initiatives you're leading to help raise the digital profile of the Ekpeye language. And how did this all start?
I started a couple of initiatives to raise the digital profile of the Ekpeye language. We have the Speak Ekpeye Fluently Language Initiative, the Ekpeye language course with 7,000 languages, and also the Ekpeye multimedia book project. The Speak Ekpeye Fluently Language Initiative is a non-profit organization that is committed to teaching and promoting the Ekpeye language. So we do this through tutorials. We used to have quarterly tutorials where teachers, people who are more proficient in the language, come to teach people who are just trying to learn the language, who are either basic or intermediate learners. And we also have outreaches, especially during the International Mother Language Day. So where we do school outreaches to talk to school children, mostly young persons, to encourage them to be proud of their identity and their language. And we also do mini tutorials on our social media channels. Right, so this is what we do at the Speak Ekpeye Fluently Language Initiative, and we also create resources for learning the language. So you can look up most of them on our website. And also the next initiative, which is the Ekpeye online course with 7,000 languages. So in 2022, I was opportune to be one of the 7,000 languages fellow. So 7,000 languages is a non-profit organization that helps language communities around the world to create resources for their language. So it's a yearly program where you apply to be a fellow, and I think they have like 5 fellows per year who work on resources for their language. So the courses are structured in a way that it will be easier for learners to learn the language. And then the next initiative that I did was the Ekpeye Multimedia Book Project. So for this project, I collaborated with a friend, Julian Villarreal Moreno, and Chief Tony Vincent Ijere. So we worked together to create a resource, like the name implies, multimedia. So we recorded folk tales, collected proverbs, and also created a mini dictionary. So the project is in 2 phases. We have it's in a book, and also you get to see the folk tales. You get to see it on YouTube as well. So while you're reading the text, you can also listen to the audios and get a feel of what is actually being passed in the book. So the first part of the project was done by going to the communities, where we recorded 12 folk tales, and each of these folk tales has songs, which is how most of our folk tales in Africa usually are. And then Chief Tony Vincent Ijere compiled the proverbs, which he has already been working on for quite some time. And then we just had some selected words as a dictionary. So the book is in 3 parts. So the first part, you see the folk tales, all written in Ekpeye texts. And the second part of it is the proverbs, and the third part is the dictionary. So we titled the book Eyo Lukani, which means ancient wisdom. I mean, the content of the book is it's knowledgeable content. I mean, so that was what inspired the name. So now on the YouTube channel, we have the folk tales. So we have the recordings, and also the subtitles in English for readers who are unable to understand the language. So they can go on YouTube and, know about what the folktale is actually saying. So that's it for that project.
Here I am marveled at the work you have put into all the initiatives. And I think it is just right that we ask you what inspired you to start the Speak Ekpeye Fluently language initiative and what keeps you going.
Yeah, so the first initiative, which is the Speak Ekpeye Fluently language initiative, it actually started as a class on a WhatsApp group. Right. So this started in 2020. That was during the lockdown, COVID lockdown. Before that time, I was having conversations with my colleagues at the university. Then I was still an undergraduate student, of course. So I was having conversations with them on the possibilities of having Ekpeye language tutorials for fellow students. Back then, I had a position in my ethnic house, so it's that position came with responsibilities. You need to be concerned with the affairs of the student community that are from Ekpeye, and one of the problem I've seen is that most persons shy away from coming to the ethnic meetings because most of them don't actually understand the language. Most persons don't speak as well, so um they have this problem of belonging. Yeah, so I had a personal encounter with a student that I bumped into. I think when one of the days when I was heading to classes. So I discovered she was from Ekpeye. I don't know how I discovered. I think maybe I overheard. Oh, and I got excited and I said, "Oh, okay. You can join us for our ethnic meetings." Right. So this person said, "Oh, she doesn't know how to speak Ekpeye. Like she had lived in Lagos all her life with the family and she just came back to school here." So I said, "Okay, we can work out something." And that was how I just started thinking of what we can do to support other students also to learn the language. I mean, which is why we have a gathering like that on campus as well. So while we made plans, we thought about it. COVID happened and there was total lockdown. So everybody went back home, and one day a thought just came to my mind that why not we have this online? Maybe just gather everybody on WhatsApp.
Really? Did you say a WhatsApp conversation? Wow, the power of social media, indeed, and new media, and the fact that we can never underestimate the power of technology.
I thought about it. I shared with a few friends, and I mean, they really saw that we should do it. And that was how I began to reach out to speakers, people who I knew are more fluent in the language and are willing to participate. And I invited them and I sent out invite links for people to join. And as you may have it, we saw a lot of turnout. I mean, people were really excited for this. I think that's the first class anybody had organized for teaching Ekpeye online. So we had a lot of students that joined in and we got quite a lot of reviews. People were really excited and it was good. So along the line, while we had that tutorial, someone reached out to me, who is my mentor today, Dr. Gazuma Okoroba. So she talked about making the project sustainable. She raised concerns of, if you just do a one-off class of 5 days, do you think anybody is going to learn Ekpeye in just 5 days and become fluent? So I thought about it and I knew that for we to actually make the impact and get the results we want to see, there was a need for this to be sustainable. And that was how we started having quarterly tutorials, and we got registered as an organization. We got board members, and we started like building this to become an actual organization. And yeah, we are today, and we've made quite a lot of progress on the Speak Ekpeye Fluently language initiative.
So, Ụmásoyé, over the years, how has the initiative impacted the youth in the Ekpeye community so far? And can you share some success stories from the initiative? We'd love to hear that.
Yeah, on impact, the project has really impacted most youths. I think before now, most persons usually have, would I say, identity crisis, or there's this sense of, oh, I feel ashamed of speaking Ekpeye. And I think this is a common problem with minority language speakers. People tend to tilt towards the bigger languages. They want to identify with, bigger language. They feel these are the languages in vogue. So people with languages that are not known, not much known, they feel like, oh, I'm not proud of speaking my language in public. So we used to have things like that. I also faced that before now, before I got knowledge. As in like 5, 6, 7 years ago, I also had that problem. So I think it's a problem of language esteem. People have no self-esteem speaking their language or identifying with, such language, especially when you have dominant languages in the region. So I think with this initiative, we've been able to an extent, curb that. So people feel a sense of pride today. When you see a social media post from Speak Ekpeye Fluent Language Initiative, people share the post, people leave good comments. Oh, I'm proud of this. I'm proud of being a native of Ekpeye. I'm proud of my language. And you see, people who've been able to instill a sense of pride to most youths today, and we will keep doing that. And also, we've been able to give people a platform for them to actually learn the language and also share ideas about the language. So we built a community around that. And I think this is, if we have more of this, if we're able to take away language shaming, we would have youths who are willing to speak their language and also pass it on to their children and the next generation.
Oh, kudos to you and the team, and I'm glad to hear about the progress you have made with the language awareness and how you have been able to bring the entire community together, especially online or on a digital space. Definitely keep doing it. Language shaming is an issue that should not be tolerated at all on all fronts. And at this point, I think it is right for me to say, Mika again. Thank you. Let us look at the Ekpeye online course. What are the key features of the Ekpeye online course?
Thank you for that question, Grace. Mika. So about the Ekpeye online course, like I said, I was a fellow with 7,000 languages, and I created a course for Ekpeye. So the key features of that course is we have lesson units. So the lessons are structured in a way that it goes from easy to then the more complex part. So from beginner, intermediate, and advanced, right? So we have texts you read, we have audios you listen, and you have pronunciation practices. So as you're learning, you're also practicing what you've learned. So the course has a place where you learn and also get to practice. So there is pronunciation practice, there is a writing practice, and also conversational practice on the course. So that way it's kind of interactive for anyone learning the course.
I'm very sure that creating an online course came with challenges. We'd love to hear some of these challenges you faced and in developing the online course and how you have overcome them, especially for any listener out there who is trying to venture into any new thing when it comes to language and is likely to face any of these challenges. How should they be able to overcome it?
Yeah, certainly there has been challenges. So for the course, I didn't create the course alone. I had help from community members that I consulted. Right. So one of the challenges getting the actual word. We don't have words for most terms in Ekpeye today. We have new words every day. For example, AI. So I don't think there's an Ekpeye word for AI. But yeah, so when I have blogs like this, I would consult community, like elders from the community, people like Chief Tony Vincent Ijiri. I consulted him during the course, and he helped. I also consulted a member of my team, Mr. Justice. So these people helped me for us to really put out a good course out there. So for complex words and words that we actually needed to coin, got their inputs, and also to actually write the text in the correct Ekpeye orthography. So I am not a linguist, so that is a challenge for me. But with the help of these people, I was able to get the right orthography for the text, which of course will aid learners to be able to pronounce correctly with the actual tones, because Ekpeye is a tonal language. So that was a challenge. I think that was the only challenge I faced, because getting the audio recordings was quite easy because I already had a community that I was working with before this time. So it was easy.
Also, briefly, let me allow you to talk about the Ekpeye Multimedia Book Project. Can you elaborate on the goals of the Ekpeye Multimedia Book Project?
Okay, yeah, I talked about this earlier, but I can elaborate on it. So the Ekpeye Multimedia Book Project, the first goal was to preserve the rich cultural heritage of the Ekpeye people. For example, the folk tales. So folk tales form a major part of our culture. During Ogu is an Ekpeye festival. That is one major activities that is done in communities. So people Africans have been doing oral tradition from time immemorial. So you always hear stories. Even as a young child, I listened to my grandmother tell me stories. And stories is a way for you to connect more with your culture and learn more about your people. So the goal was to preserve these, and also for people to have a platform to experience these as well, because the folk stories are not done the way it's done in the past. Like I said, my grandmom told me stories, but my mom didn't do that, right? So we have parents that don't continue this oral tradition, we may lose most of these folk tales and parts of our culture. So the idea was to preserve this and also allow people to experience it. So hence we did a multimedia format for it.
So this, I'd want to know, how do you select the folklore and music to be included in the project? And what role do native speakers and creative professionals play in this project? How are you certain that this is the right folklore to use, this is the right music to use?
Oh, that's a very good question, Grace. So about the selection of the folk music. So what we did, Chief Ijere helped us with that. He is an expert in the language, and currently he has a title, right, in the ethnic group for holding the language. So we consulted him, I and Julian. So Julian is also a language advocate. He's from Spain. He has been doing projects with other language communities too. We connected on LinkedIn and we started talking about doing a project like this. So we consulted him, and so he helped us select like the tales that we do. We have a lot of tales, but since we needed just 12, right, we needed to get like the ones that are rich and more relatable, and also had some content, right? Because most folk tales are very short and some is just songs. So we looked at the folk stories that also has a narrative as well as a song, right? So we selected 12 and we went to these communities and recorded the speakers. While we recorded, the speakers also came with the musical instruments for the song. So then they did a narration. It was a group narration. So we had a lead narrator and then the group had to sing. And the way the stories are is most times this is introduced with a song. So after the song, the narrator tells the story followed by a song, maybe a verse from the song and so on. So that was how we did it. And when we got the audio recordings, we had to transcribe it into text. And that was where the real work is, because we had to listen and start writing, So I did that with Chief Ijeri. So I did a rough draft of the text, and then he helped with putting the right orthography and expanding it further. But it was a really fun project, and I was glad we did that.
And looking at the massive efforts you have put into the project, it is obvious that it has come to stay. So tell us about your long-term goals for the preservation and promotion of the Ekpeye language, and how can listeners support your effort in sustaining the language?
Yes, thank you, Grace. I agree. It's been an amazing conversation so far. And looking forward, one of the long-term goals I have for the Ekpeye language is I'm looking at when we are going to have an Ekpeye Wikipedia page, starting with that. I started with this because it's already in the works. We just started. It's still an incubator project. So, Wikipedia is an open source platform, and we are seeing how we can also localize this platform into Ekpeye. We have Wikipedia in other bigger languages. You can read Wikipedia in Yoruba, Igbo, Swahili, French, Portuguese, and the rest. So I am a contributor to Wikipedia, so I think it's also a platform that we could use to expand the digital profile of the Ekpeye language, and I'm really looking forward to that. Also, we look at having a standardized keyboard for the language. It's going to really help people to actually write in the language, even on social media platforms. Also, another goal would be having a standard dictionary. So on Eyolukani, we just had a mini dictionary there, but we look at having a complete dictionary that has new terminologies in them as well. The world is evolving, and we are having new technologies as the days goes by. So we actually need to also create new terminologies for these in the language. And also another goal would be to have a language immersion program. So it could be like a mentor apprentice setting where we have fluent speakers from the ethnic group be assigned to maybe a beginner. So maybe we'll have a setting like that where people just enroll or sign up and get matched with a mentor, maybe for 6 months or a year. So these are projects we are exploring and looking forward to do in the near future. And also listeners can support our efforts by, if you're listening and you're from Ekpeye or related to Ekpeye in one way or the other, the first way to support our efforts is by actually speaking the language. Speaking the language aids in continuing the language. That's one way. And also you can help us spread word about what we do. We also encourage people that are not from Ekpeye to actually learn Ekpeye. Just like people say they have language goals of learning Spanish or French. You could also take on minority languages as well to learn. It helps in promoting the language. And also, if you're a speaker of any language, either a language with large speaker population or small speaker population, I would encourage everyone out there to have pride in speaking their language and also to be intentional about it, because language is a huge part of our identity. And also, we can start by reclaiming this identity by having names in our language. You, Grace, addressed me as Ụmásoyé. I was intentional about it. 3 years ago, my name was just Franca Igwe. Most of my academic documents still has that. But, I was intentional because both names, Franca and Igwe, are not Ekpeye names. Right? Igwe is an Igbo name and Franca is an English name. So how do people know that this is this person, this is where this person comes from? So I had to be intentional to actually add my middle name, which was given to me by my grandmother. So these are little steps that we can be intentional about to help promote our languages and also keep our identity.
I won't be far from right if I say that you are an expert in the language now. With your experience and all the learnings you have gathered along the way, what advice would you give to other language advocates working to preserve endangered languages?
And I'll leave here with this last word. So every language advocate out there, the journey is not easy. You are definitely going to come across some challenges. It could be with funding. It could be with actually creating resources. It could be with, getting people that would actually give you the support you need for your work. But the thing is, don't give up. Just keep doing the work. And I tell you, posterity is going to remember the work you've done. No work is too big or too little when it comes to preserving a language or working to save languages that are endangered. Thank you very much for having me, Grace, and it's been a wonderful conversation with you. Ika.
A journey of 1,000 miles, they say, begins with a step. And just as you have begun now, I am positive that we'll get to that place where all your dreams for the language will materialize. Mika, thank you for sharing with us. And we are hopeful the next time we speak, we'll be talking about a lot more success stories and impact and the realization of your dreams. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate your presence and your wealth of knowledge. To my listeners out there, Mika, to you too, for always being here. I'll see you next time on the next episode. My name is Grace Hammoah Agyemang, and this has been the Africa LSP Podcast. Till I come your way again in the next episode, stay safe, do everything you can to protect, preserve, and promote your language. It's bye-bye from us here. See you next time. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Africa's LSP Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and learned something new. For feedback or enquiries, reach out to us at podcast@bolingoconsult.com. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite platforms. Until next time, stay curious and keep growing.